And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial and retirement future. He is president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris McIntire here with us as always. And Chris, the 4th of July week ahead of us, America celebrating its independence, and we want to try to secure a confident, independent financial future as well.
Yeah, we sure do. That's a great lead in there, my friend. Financial independence, the independence of this great nation that we get to live in, and being right here on Lake Erie.
Yep. Well, Chris, I mean, we've always had kind of a fiercely independent entrepreneurial spirit in America, and one that valued the individual freedoms. But in order to achieve and accomplish that, and have confidence in being able to maintain it, I think there are things that we all need to be doing or thinking about from a financial perspective. And we'll be talking about a number of those on today's program: how to establish confidence in your quality of life after the paycheck earning years are behind you, ladies and gentlemen. That is one of the common themes here on your game plan for retirement, as well as some of the individual strategies and opportunities that you have to better accomplish that goal. And if you've got questions or concerns, if you would like to look over your investment portfolio, your retirement accounts, your plan for your financial future, Chris McIntire does offer you the opportunity, the ability to do that. All you need to do is pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That is 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Or you can visit online, McIntyreRetirementServices.com, McIntyreRetirementServices.com. If it's been a while since you checked out the social media feeds, Chris is everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, X. He is on all of the platforms, Instagram and beyond. So if you do go search McIntyre Retirement Services, Chris McIntyre, or linked from the website there, one central hub, McIntyreRetirementServices.com. Lots of great content out there. So again, Chris, the goals for financial independence: we've got these retirement investments, we've got the 401ks, we've got Social Security. However, with all of those, Americans still are feeling less confident about their quality of life moving forward. And so I guess my question there is, if the way that we've been taught, and if the way that most people were doing things really worked so effectively, would we see this lack of confidence in our retirement and financial stability?
Peter, when you bring up the Social Security, Medicare side of things, that's kind of the baseline or the foundation for people transitioning into retirement that the government is providing, basically. Obviously, yes, we paid for it through our working years, but, we keep hearing on the news that, the dire straits that those two, institutions are in, and, it doesn't seem like anything gets done. So, I mean, the lack of confidence, that's where it can also start. And, that's where I will point some of the blame, because I do this all day, every day. And, client after client comes in and says, we're really concerned about Social Security and Medicare. And, we need to hold back on what we're doing in case this doesn't work out for us. So, so you've got that element of it on Social Security and Medicare. And then you transition into, the investors who have had to save their own money. Nowadays, most people do not have pensions anymore. That's what we're talking about. So they're doing that savings and their disciplined approach, and, can be very good at running budgets and everything like that, and still not have the greatest degree of confidence because of the Social Security, Medicare side of things. So, it's a great, I'm looking forward to talking this through with you here today, buddy.
It's funny, Chris, you mentioned that. It's like individuals are doing all of the things that we need to do, all of the things that we've been told and taught, and taking advantage of the opportunities. And yet still, because of the lack of confidence in those retirement systems, we feel less confident about retirement, when the onus of that, the blame really isn't on our own shoulders.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, so I guess we kind of transition this into the financial risk that people run into as they go into retirement, from, decisions they've made to decisions our elected officials have made. And, so let's work our way into that, buddy. The financial risk side of things, I think most people listening to the show today are going to think, well, the stock market,
Sure.
uh, and we're going to, let's call that the sequence of returns. We've talked about that before because the stock market could go up 15% and fall by 10. That's not the end of the world for anybody. It's when it goes up 10% and falls by 30. Now that sequence of those returns, when you're pulling dollars out of it, is really something that is very important to help where we help people mitigate that sequence of return risk, so they're not drawing down on assets that are depressed in prices.
Yeah, it's not if it goes down, it's when it goes down, right, Chris? It's
Yeah.
that going down at the wrong time could completely change our trajectory for retirement. That's the kind of luck of the draw and randomness of the stock market and how it aligns with our life cycle and when we are retiring is a significant multiplier of the risk of just the stock market going up or going down, particularly of obviously the risk of it going down is when it goes down and where we are in our financial progress. If those two align in the wrong way, it can have big impacts on our financial future.
Yeah, it certainly can, Peter. So the sequence of returns, and again, another example of that is, you retired in 2021, and then in 2022 the market fell significantly, and thankfully it has recovered nicely into 2023 and 2024. But that sequence of returns, for those of you that went through that, that's a pretty good shock to your system, obviously. And then, and what are the alternatives? How do you mitigate that risk? Well, we talk about that throughout the show, using a number of different we'll just call it a safe money strategy that says, hey, if my investments, my money at risk isn't performing like it needs to, I need to come over here and have a safe pile that I can live off of.
Yeah, well, again, we are talking with Chris McIntire, ladies and gentlemen, and financial confidence is quality of life in retirement. You can enjoy your life more if you're confident about your money, your dollars, your investments are doing the things that they need to do. But there are a lot of factors that can undermine that confidence. So we'll talk about how to address those. The key here, Chris, is always that you've got a plan that addresses those issues that could undermine or jeopardize that financial confidence, the risks that we will discuss to our financial independence into and throughout retirement. And the true value of the program, ladies and gentlemen, is that Chris McIntire does make an offer to help put that plan together with you and for you, and then continue to execute on that plan and monitor it and update it along the way and throughout the years. And that is the value of the resource of McIntire Retirement Services. If you'd like to take advantage of an initial conversation, ask a few questions, if you'd like that complimentary review, the consultation and retirement planning strategy session, pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, I mentioned that Americans are doing everything they need to, but still less confident in retirement. That's not entirely true, because you did share an article about saving being the basis of financial security and how really Americans are not saving enough. In fact, 41% of Americans had nothing saved at all for retirement, and 5% have more than 20,000. Now, I would say that those tuned into a program like this probably are not in those categories, but by and large, maybe we are not doing the things that we need to do as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would, and again, being a big of a country as we are, many people fit into many demographics.
Right.
Some folks have fallen on harder times, of course, and, live in, more economically depressed areas. And I would say up here, thankfully in the upper Midwest where we're at here and most of our client base is, they don't fall into that lower category, but, there is an astonishing amount of people that live just off of Social Security. And that could be because they ran out of money, earlier than they anticipated. My parents basically live off of their Social Security and pension incomes now. They're not, high on the hog by any stretch of the imagination. Robin's dad, the same way, lives off pension and Social Security. And, they're in their upper 90s and whatnot. And they, all did what they needed to do during their retirement. And, as many people here listening to the show today. So, you live and learn from different experiences. And, if your parents or grandparents went through certain economic conditions or even like healthcare, if you had to put your loved ones into a nursing home and spent their money down, you're more likely to offset that healthcare risk because you saw the economic damage it did. And that's another one of our bouncing back and forth here to the financial risk is
Yeah.
that's what can happen later in life. The healthcare, the long-term care, $100,000 a year to be in a nursing home, for example, is a significant drawdown on a $500,000 investment portfolio.
The impact, Chris, of seeing and experiencing that personally makes someone more prone to want to try to address it so they don't place that burden on their family.
Yeah, without question. So, we talked about the sequence of return, the stock market risk, Peter, the healthcare risk, and I suppose we probably should throw in taxation, right?
Sure.
Because taxation is a risk. You might be looking at a $1 million IRA account. Well, hey, you got a partner in that with you, the Internal Revenue Service, and they say, hey, this is a pay as you play program, and the more you play, the more you pay. How about that for a quick cliche?
Yeah, well, we talked last week, Chris, about will Washington wipe out retirement or Wall Street, and taxation certainly a big topic there, and continues to be a topic day to day in our planning. The list of the different types and the amount of taxes that we pay is astonishing. And then circling back to the prior point, it's just the management of those funds seems to be lacking, and it's yet another reason why we are less confident in our financial future. But at the end of the day, there's two sides to that, right? There's spending and then there's income, and the government's income is in the form of taxes. So I know a lot of people are concerned about the future impact taxes will have on that retirement nest egg, how big a bite of the apple it's going to take, so to speak. And that's why you spend a lot of time with those that strive for financial freedom and confidence to talk about proactive management of that tax bill.
Government spending is going to affect the tax rate issue, and we know what the government has done. Both political parties here to throw them both under the bus here have spent way too much money than they really should have or needed to, and it doesn't look like they're going to get their fiscal or house in order. I read yesterday in the Wall Street Journal they were projecting the federal deficit in the year 2030 to be $50 trillion. So there is no end in sight, I guess. So that's where that taxation issue, how is the government going to pay for that? They're going to take more of your money to put it into their pockets. That's what taxation is, folks.
Well, and
Plain
when
and
when
simple.
when they continue spending more than they are bringing in, Chris, that is the creation of additional dollars, putting them out into circulation, both physically printing them and then digitally. I know that it doesn't actually always happen on a printing press these days, but either way, by expanding the economic base and the dollars in circulation, that is what has led to this problem that we've seen over the last few years, very specifically and acutely, which is the inflation. It's kind of just another form of taxation that, again, has people concerned about their lasting financial confidence and freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And, let's be honest, there's more of this stimulus and COVID relief funds that, both parties were, happy to dole out has driven prices up, has created inflation. So, it's not like, the Chrysler Corporation or Ford Motor or Amazon themselves create inflation. Inflation comes out of the government with their spending habits and how much they're putting in people's pockets to drive up the price. And obviously COVID was the perfect storm. We had a supply chain crisis fueled by people with loaded cash. And right now I read this morning, Peter, for show prep this morning, that the extra savings that many Americans have in their left over from a lot of the COVID dollars and whatnot is ended. So now they're spending their own dollars, and are they going to slow down some of that spending? It's a lot easier to spend free money than what you've actually earned for yourself, And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We had a Mad Money account, obviously, and now that Mad Money account is accumulated. The more money it has in it, the less I want to spend it. When it had a $5,000 balance, it was nothing to take money in and out of it. Now that it's got a much larger balance, it's like, man, I really want to continue to let it grow. So kind of funny the psychology of everybody's dollars and the way that they view them, myself included.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Chris, I know I saw charts and stats that said the savings rate for Americans went way, way up when we were all locked down, had nothing to do from COVID, and now it's gone back down to even lower than pre-COVID levels. The amount of our income that we actually save and put away, I think was, well under 2% there, but for a while it had gone up almost 20%. So that mad money account for many people has been drained, Chris. And now, yes, we're back. And then we can't just blame this on the government either. Circling back to the personal responsibility side of it here, Chris, one of the biggest concerns is running out of money in retirement, right? And we've got to have some guidelines. Without that plan in place, without the guidelines, without sort of sticking to some good practices in maintaining that budget, we could easily overspend ourselves in the first several years of retirement, because we can spend as much as we have in just year one of retirement, but what are the future years going to look like? So I think that part of that planning process for lasting financial confidence and independence has to be to map out some guidelines, right? You are here, and here's the efficient way to get to where you want to go, and here are the guardrails that are going to keep you in place.
Yeah, and it's funny. My wife and I were at an appointment the other day, and a young lady asked what we did for a living, and my wife told him, and she says, "Yeah," she says, I don't even have a budget." She says, "I'm in my mid 40s. I should probably start." And she was a nurse. We're at a medical appointment, and said, "Yeah, I don't even know what my budget is." And I said, "Well, it's never too early, never too late to start, and the sooner you do, the better." And I believe she was married and whatnot, but probably a dual income family making good money. If she was a nurse and her husband had a similar income, that probably doing fine. Don't need to worry about a monthly budget. But as you certainly get a little bit older, you start looking at some of these things, and you want to make sure that you've got some sort of financial discipline, let's call it that. Not, it doesn't have to be every single dollar, every single penny, but at least know the ballpark where you're in. Do you need $5,000 a month or $7,000 a month,
Yep.
on an average? Because, you're going to have things like, look, we need to replace the car, we got to update the HVAC system. We got to put a new roof on. You're going to have some of those big ticket items. And we try to, tell our folks, look, if you're, coming within 3 to 5 years of retirement, you want to do some of those things, and and get some of those big things out of the way. Remodeling the bathroom, maybe making it at least handicap accessible. People do a lot of that ahead of time, because bathrooms, some of those things are very, very expensive. So having some fiscal discipline, heading into retirement can certainly help to get those big ticket items out of the way. Nobody likes a $30,000 shock, right?
No, no. But back to your nurse, I think a lot of people probably, Chris, are in that category where we do earn a comfortable income where we're not forced to pinch every penny and stretch every dollar and pay attention to where every single purchase is made or how much, except that leads to the habit of not paying attention to it. And the day after we retire, the paycheck is gone. Now we've got a finite amount of money for that same description of person. The shift in income is probably that much more significant, and the lifestyle we are accustomed to probably that much more expensive, right? And so it does become paramount to pay attention to the budget and sort of control spending at that point in time. The next point on the show prep that you had provided was that remember, your paycheck equates to financial security and freedom. Then the day after retirement, it's your savings that equate to that financial security and freedom. There is a transition there.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think a good analogy is look, when we were kids getting ready to go back to school after sleeping in all summer long, man, my parents said, "Hey, you got to start getting up on time and whatnot, so that you're ready to walk into school and have that discipline." And the same thing with retirement can be said. Look, you want to start doing some of these things 3 to 5 years ahead of time, so that there is no shock to the system, that you're already kind of running your running your retirement like a business where you're going to pay yourself versus your employer that pays you now.
I had forgotten all about that, Chris. Yeah, the 2 weeks, week or so before school starts, where you're forced to get up early and get back in that routine. As a kid, it's like, why am I doing this? I don't, but there's some sense to it, right? Is that we are forming habits and routines to better prepare ourselves for what's to come.
Yeah, yeah, without question, and your son being an athlete, he probably does some, early stuff anyway, so maybe he gets up there, but not everybody does that. But yeah, and that brings back, bad memories sometimes because that means the party's over. And look, it's the summer months right now. I think most of us, myself included, we slow our schedule down a little bit in the summer months so that hey, we can take it and enjoy life here a little bit and be outside and whatnot and spend time with family and friends. And that's why we work hard different times of the year, of course.
Yeah, well, so far this summer he's been sleeping in a little bit more. Had a little sports injury, so he's not been able to do as much getting up that early. But on a normal basis, yes, Chris. And then we now transfer those same values onto him. Of hey, before school starts, we're going to get back in this habit and routine, and before retirement starts. We need to be thinking about forming good habits and good routines because the day after retirement, those habits and routines are what are going to determine our financial security, our independence, and our confidence. And having a plan is going to help us determine the guidelines for those habits and routines, right, Chris? Looking at income, investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy, all of the factors that we've talked about, the difference between how confident do you feel of your financial future? The answer being a 1 or a 10 is probably having that plan in place and addressing those issues that could impact our future.
Yeah, without a question, Peter, and I've been self-employed basically my whole adult life. So, I mean, I get up very early in the morning just naturally. So I have some built-in disciplines I think that I've honed over the years. Some people need an alarm clock to get up and run their routines, and they need to follow a specific agenda. We kind of call it the psychology of how we run our lives. We all have different personalities. So, some people do much better with a written plan or an agenda in place, and other ones might not necessarily need that because of what they did for a living. They were solving problems all day, every day. And, we kind of fit into that. So, our disciplines are different than other people's disciplines. Doesn't make them better, just means that they're different, right?
Yeah, well, I know you're an early riser, Chris. Usually if I text you 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening, you're already out, but I'll get one back at like 5:30 in the morning. So I know you're up and at it without the use of an alarm clock. Chris, certain things are going to help us to really finish strong, right? In the home stretch is to formulate the income plan. Maybe once the kids are up and out, maybe even getting the house paid off, being debt free, taking money that was once allocated to other purposes and maxing out retirement savings opportunities in the home stretch of our career, and then really formulating the plan. And actually, you wanted to emphasize the fact that right now may be one of the best times ever to look at how to transition and formulate that income plan from the retirement accounts and savings and investments that we have.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, people have a debt plan when they have a mortgage on their house. They have an insurance plan when they protect everything that they've got, life, health, long-term care, property and casualty. They have an investment plan. They have a spending plan. Like you say, we talk about income planning. There's so much to this, tax planning, estate planning. If you think about it, today's folks, are retiring with, these with very large IRA 401k issues, and, don't discount the importance of tax planning. Once you step into retirement, it doesn't mean, tax planning is not putting money in a 401k. That's retirement planning. Tax planning is understanding where your income levels are and can we shift dollars into something that's going to be tax free down the road, and does it make sense to do, a lot of that or a little of that or none of that.
And Chris, the Fed has hinted that rates will be decreasing at some point in the future. Now, they have not done it as soon as they told us they were going to, or as much as they said that they thought they would at the beginning of the year. They've sort of delayed that, but that is of benefit for retirement planners because with these higher still available interest rates right now, we are able to look at options that could potentially generate 25, 30, even 40% more income throughout retirement for the same dollar invested today.
Yeah, you're right, Peter. And the Federal Reserve's got, two functions, full employment and inflation at about 2%. Well, we've got pretty well full employment right now, so they are focusing more on the inflation side, not the employment side, and they're going to be a little bit more persistent on holding rates at least steady, and maybe cut later on in the year, as you said. That's been some of the new, things coming out of the meetings they recently have had. And, hey, they all, if we turn the clock back a year, we were thinking maybe in March we'd be getting interest rate cuts. Now they're talking December. So, who knows? And again, we have the election coming up there in November. So I would think they'll stay away from the election side of things. And December is beginning to make more sense, in my opinion, as well. And so we may get fewer cuts than previous, because the economy is kind of strong right now, and they want to bring that inflation target down, which is very important for people on fixed incomes, obviously.
Well, I've also seen charts of interest rates and presidential election cycles, and it seems like those interest rates are always most advantageous right before an election. This year, maybe this cycle may be a little different with how much interest rates have gone up over the past couple years, but there's a different dynamic for borrowers versus savers and investors versus those who are looking to create income. And now may be the optimal time, ladies and gentlemen. If you are looking to figure out how to map out and create that retirement income plan, that paycheck the day after you retire, that is dependable, sustainable, and that helps you establish and maintain the financial confidence and independence throughout retirement, pick up the phone, give a call. Right now is maybe the best time that we have seen to do so, with rates where they are, with the payout rates where they are, with the income cash flow rates where they are. It is definitely worth a call. Chris McIntire can help show you choices and options. It is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it is a good time for all to look at the solutions. So pick up the phone, give a call to Chris McIntire at McIntire Retirement Services, 800-868-1194. That is 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, I want to wrap up by pointing out a distinction that maybe we overlook too often on the program, which is that not all advisors focus in on this area of helping people make that transition to retirement. That is a niche that you've really had over the course of your career. There are plenty of great advisors out there, but not all of them do the same thing. This is what you've focused on to help people turn the corner the day after retirement and continue to maintain financial confidence.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Peter. There are some, platforms that they're just asset collectors to get a management fee. They're not involved in Roth conversions, the healthcare side, the estate planning side, the tax planning side, and that is definitely where we're a little bit different, and we're more intimate in our relationships with our clients, a lot more face-to-face pieces. We're not headset people. Obviously we can do some Zooms and things like that. But we sit across the table from our folks. We can read the emotions and whatnot. And, we want them to come to us when they need us the most. And, those are usually in times of crisis, for example. And, we deal with, long-term clients with health issues and, help them hold their hands through a lot of this stuff. And, that's where the biggest reward comes in, to be honest with you.
Well, we always appreciate the time and getting to know you here on the program, Chris. And so many across Northwestern Ohio have taken advantage of having you and the team there at McIntire Retirement Services as a resource, but so many more need to have that plan put together. Ladies and gentlemen, the best time to do that is ahead of time, being proactive, and Chris McIntire can help you structure that, execute it, maintain it, monitor it, manage it on an ongoing basis. And the team there at McIntire Retirement Services is such a valuable resource for proactive planners. So pick up the phone, get your game plan for retirement put together, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, we always appreciate you being here. Happy 4th of July, Independence Day week ahead.
Yay, buddy. Good to be with everybody. Yep, enjoy the 4th of July. God bless this great country we live in. Thank you.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.